all about the mobility aspect for that. And as we look at that world, right, we've talked to hundreds, if not thousands of customers, and we've heard these themes resonating from those conversations about the need for a new model of IT, and we simply call that brave new IT, and it needs to include instant, right, the ability to rapidly respond, to be able to move resources and be fluid, and of course secure. And that is brave new IT, an environment that enables them to respond to the digital challenges that they're all in today. But also, it's not just a new model of IT, it's also giving them the tools that allows them to rise up in these areas. And in many cases, the CEOs of businesses across the planet are looking at saying, who's the smartest tech guy at my table? Who can help me drive this transformational agenda? And it's IT. IT, the ones who've been running and operating. You know, the phone call from the CEO didn't used to be a good phone call. It meant mail was down or something wasn't working. Now the call is, how can you help me transform my business in a fundamental way? And that's the opportunity we have in working with our customers, is to help them be that agent of change, that strategic leader and partner of businesses on a global basis. We've laid out an architecture for this new model of IT, and we simply call it one cloud, any application, any device. And one cloud is this view that, boy, we need to establish an environment that has a common architecture across the private cloud, transforming their internal data centers to a cloud-like model, doing it through their managed cloud, and what they would get from partners, but also public cloud resources. But this one cloud is built on one common architecture, the software-defined data center, an architecture that allows them to have an environment that's the same on-premise, managed, and off-premise as well. And the ingredients of that software-defined data center are virtualized compute, our heritage, but also a virtualized network and virtualized storage, and a common layer of management across all of the components. And the rule of the cloud is ruthlessly automate everything and drive to an automated environment that's enabled by those software layers. But as we've built that layer, that software-defined data center, it also allows hardware transformation as well. And the move from build your own, you put the switches, router, server, and arrays together, to converged and now hyper-converged infrastructure. Efficiency, scale, and operational benefits in the hardware layer as well. But why do we build infrastructure? It's for a single purpose: run applications, right? Enable businesses to run those apps. And in the enterprise environment, it's traditional applications and modern applications. But the world is complex, and our customers have to do both of those, because even the coolest new web mobile application still has to interact with traditional systems and customer environments and ERP. We enable an environment that is truly any application. And finally, the agenda of today is deliver those capabilities onto any device. And any device, it must be managed, it must be secure, has to enable all of those use cases for today's PCs and Macs, but the explosion of mobile devices as well. And that's the focus of today's conversation. And as we've seen this, businesses are embracing mobility. But largely today, it's been what we'll call individual productivity. I'm sure each one of you, right? You get your mail on your device, and I'm more productive as a result, right? I could open up my laptop and take advantage of it, but I've become more productive. Or team productivity. Maybe social applications, being able to make my team more effective. But the objective is business mobility. Business mobility, where we're fundamentally changing business processes with a mobile environment at the center of that change. And as we've talked to customers, we found, 85% of them have gotten individual productivity underway. That's pretty good. But as we did that same survey of over 1,000 customers, what we found was only 17% had accomplished fundamental business transformation in the part of their business, a business mobility centricity. And furthermore, as we talked to them, almost all of them want to move up to business mobility. They all see the need. They have projects underway, POCs, starting to explore what that would mean. And that's the path. But against that path to business mobility, there are a range of industry challenges and opportunities as well. All see those that objective in mind. And Industries that are fast-moving, like retail and finance, are more advanced in embracing these areas, and medical. But other industries also see the need to move toward business mobility, but not as far along. But the amazing thing about our survey was that we found shining lights in every single industry. Every industry had early movers, those that were embracing business mobility and making it central to their activities. And we'll talk about a range of customers, and you'll hear some of the testimonials, but two in particular that we're joined by for today's conversation. Stryker, a leader in medical equipment and devices. And what they were seeking was, as the iPad and other devices came out, was how can they improve their customer intimacy through their salespeople. And so they built their first application, and that has now become well over 100 applications, enabling them to have a far more interactive and intimate experience as they're delivering their equipments and devices into hospitals, clinics, and doctors around the globe. Similarly with Gap, a world-leading brand, a range of brands that they offer. And retail, maybe more than any, has seen the need for business mobility, and they're changing their in-store experience, their inventory processes, and embracing mobility to make that more efficient and change their customer experience across the range, right, of the Gap brands that are in the market today. Taken together, transforming their business around business mobility. But as we think about this picture, we realize that there are challenges to get there. And as we've talked to those same customers, we see three primary challenges that they face. One is around security. Right? How are these devices going to be secured and enabled? Another is around their data. Right? How can I protect my data? Because now my attack surface has become everybody, right, who's interacting, every customer outside of my firewalls and domains, and everybody who may be connecting to and getting my services. And finally, how do I manage these things? And simply put, it's too hard to get there. And that's what we do as a technology provider, make it easier for our customers to get there. And we take on this challenge with great urgency as well, because we fundamentally believe that businesses that don't embrace and move forward on the path to business mobility will be obsolete in the future. These changes are that fundamental and that significant for how business is done. And that's what today's conversation is about. How can we work with our customers to make it easier to make that journey to business mobility? That's what we're all about today. We have an exciting set of announcements, and to lead our conversation there is our exciting, right, passionate leader, right, in this space, Sanjay Poonen, who'll be guiding the rest of our conversation this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Sanjay.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you. Thank you. Great. Welcome to all of you in the room here from VMware. I was going to wear this wonderful yellow shirt since it's Game 6 of the Warriors tonight, but I didn't want Cleveland among our tens of thousands of people to tune out, so I'm going to throw that down. But more exciting today, if you open up the Wall Street Journal, okay, and every one of you who is online, dialed in from different parts of the world, and many of you will watch this, you should pick up the Wall Street Journal, and there's an ad in there that talks about our vision for mobility. And this is the type of brand that we're trying to create as we reimagine what's going to happen in this fantastic world of mobility. And the fact is, when you think about what's going on here in mobility, it's not new in terms of what has happened over the course of the last 7-8 years since the iPhone or the new age of what we'd call smartphones developed. And the consumer mobility revolution has happened. I have twin boys, and when they were very young, just barely 12 months old, they picked up my iPad, and it took them instant amount of time before they understood the pinch and the zoom, and they were browsing through photos and things of that kind, playing video games, even got to parts of YouTube I probably didn't want them to watch. But I thought to myself, as they played around with the future of mobility, when they actually got to a laptop, they were going to expect the screen to pinch and zoom. When they picked up a future paper magazine, they're going to expect it to be electronic. This is the world we live in. So the consumer mobility revolution has happened. But unfortunately, many of us in IT and in the enterprise world know that we're stuck. We don't lug around 300 CDs when we listen to music. It just is streamed to us in iPod, iPhones, iCloud, all of the stuff that we know and love. But our experience when we get to applications isn't that way. I dare you to go to the airport and log into your applications in the terminal of the United Airlines lounge. Often that's tough. we carry a lot of baggage with us that today has caused enterprise IT to stay stuck. And we have to, as an industry, continue to innovate here. And that's what we're doing here, is to enable the infrastructure and the applications to just move at a whole new pace, the way in which the consumer world is. We believe that the enterprise world can learn something from the consumer world about simplicity in much the same way the consumer world is learning from the enterprise world about security. That's the magic of what we're trying to make happen. Now, the good news is this. When we survey our CIOs, this is a survey from ZDNet, and we find consistently on the top priority of what CIOs want to spend on are these two priorities, security and number two, mobility. Almost every survey, somewhere up there among the top two. So certainly, we're relevant in terms of many of you who are in the audience or watching this are thinking about spending. And the second part of that survey said, who would you want to do business with? And in this particular survey, VMware was number one, among a list of other great companies, but we were number one. So it's our job as a company, the fastest growing software company, the fifth largest software company today, to continue to innovate like never before to solve these two imperatives, the merger and the coming together of mobility and security. To do that, we think there are three very fundamental parts that are important to this business transformation. Number one, it starts with a consumer-grade experience. This is so important because the enterprise IT world hasn't been that. We get functionality right. We get lots and lots of it. But typically, our consumer-grade experience leaves a lot to be desired. And I've lived 20 years in IT with various different companies, but typically the consumer-grade experience is something we've all got to continue to strive to. We also live in a heterogeneous world. It's no longer a PC world where it's just Windows operating system. Increasingly there's Macs now on the rise, Chromebooks on the rise. And in the handset, in the phone market, it's an iOS world, it's an Android world, it will be Windows 10 among the tablets. So heterogeneity is what VMware thrives on. We did that really well in the data center and became the Switzerland company that could help you virtualize and manage the data center. We're now doing the same thing in the device. And the more that each of these landscapes are very powerful, iOS and Android, you need a Switzerland vendor that's not tied to one or the other, that can work with every one of these key players to ensure that you are successful, customers and partners. And then third, the one we get very well in the enterprise is ensuring this works in a trusted infrastructure. When you bring these three together in a mobile cloud architecture, you get magic of consumer simplicity meets enterprise security. This is what we're trying to drive in our transformation of business mobility. And this will work in a heterogeneous landscape, all the way from a desktop to a Tesla, so to speak, and in a cloud infrastructure that could be on-premise, private cloud, or public cloud. That trusted infrastructure is what every one of you expect from us. Now, we've been busy at work. It's not like the first time we're announcing things here. We've been very busy at work at innovating like never before. One analyst said, you're innovating in the last 15, 18 months, VMware, in what we've seen from alternatives the last 15, 18 years. And that's the pace that we like. We like innovating every month and week and quarter. Combining the simplicity that users want with the security that IT wants. And today we have a portfolio that is second to none. Okay? Horizon Desktop, we were just ranked recently by IDC. It just came out on Friday as the #1 player, top right in the MarketScape. So kudos to all of you here and Sumit's team that have done a fantastic job there. The AirWatch Mobile team, run by John Marshall, has been doing an incredible job. Not just were they a leader when they came into VMware about a year ago, but now, and I'll show you in a second, the analyst validation of this, we are now becoming more and more the undisputed one running away in this space. We have a set of content collaboration products. All of this is today what we call the Workspace Suite, integrated very nicely to our software-defined data center OneCloud. The combination of what we can do in the data center brought all the way to device brings this mobile cloud architecture to bear. In the mobile space, which is really what we're talking about today, we've been very fortunate to not just innovate, but then be recognized by the analysts as a leader in this space. Year over year, if you compare where we were last year to this year, you've seen us move top and further to the right, while many have fallen further down. And our job is to continue to take that validation, much of the trust that we earn from customers like the ones you've heard, and pour it back into R&D. We're spending 2 or 3 times the amount of R&D in this space compared to much of our competitors. And that's what VMware loves, building great products and then making our customers delighted. So today, we have 5 core announcements that I think are going to be game-changing and taking us to the whole new level. 3 are focused on things that we're doing with the ecosystem, and 2 that were focused on product. So let me work through them one at a time so you have the highlights of the news. Number one, we've always understood where the bread gets buttered, so to speak. And in the enterprise, there's a lot of market share of Apple. Much of what AirWatch did, which was fundamentally different from everybody else, was build a cloud-based product. Many of the rest of the competition have an on-premise product. Think of them as a Salesforce compared to a former Siebel or whatever have you. So in that type of cloud architecture, much of what we've done over the years, and John Marshall, has been driving the innovation around Apple iOS. It's not iOS only, but it's certainly often iOS first. And in doing that, because often iOS is the enterprise leader, we've been able to do a lot with Apple. And we're announcing that we're doubling down our commitment with Apple. Apple, on their earnings call a couple of months ago, announced that they are broadening their ISV partnerships, and we are honored to be in the small list of ISV partners, working with them. We do a lot in the field with them, and there's going to be engineered innovation that we double down on the iOS platform. We will certainly cover other platforms too, like Android and Windows 10 coming out, but here we're making a special commitment to what we're doing with Apple. As a function of that, we've also innovated some new things we call application configuration that allows the way in which you configure applications to be Sesame Street simple. If you remember the early days of e-commerce sites, you had to go and fill out your address, and then you filled out your credit card, and then you filled out your address, you filled out your credit card, you filled out, again and again and again. And then over time, as you build trust into your system, maybe your Chrome browser, much of that configuration and those default settings were stored for you. You could delete it if you wanted to, but much of that was stayed. That same configuration approach is the way we're taking to enterprise apps that we'll talk about. Now, none of mobility would be possible without the network. And we joined forces with the leader in the US, AT&T, that was one of the first to embrace the iPhone revolution. And we've engineered a solution here that really allows the consumer and the enterprise person to have a split bill, separating your work from your life in the AT&T Work platform. And then fourth and fifth are announcements around some new products that we think are going to game change. We see in a user-centric world, mobile and identity coming together. And I'm going to talk to you about why this is going to be fundamentally novel. And then finally, as we take that form of security, identity management is a very key component of security, and tie that to the network with network security, we're going to talk about some of the innovation that brings together two very hot products at VMware, NSX and AirWatch. So let me go over them one at a time. Number one, when we think about what we can do on an iPad or an iOS device or on an iWatch, okay, many of them often fall into vertical industries. And we've picked 5 or 6 industries where we've seen enormous success in the Apple iOS system. Education is one. This is fundamentally changing. One customer said, delivering now iPads to students is our birthright. Think about how we can fundamentally change the lives of students by putting much of these devices now where you're replacing paper, bringing modern types of education like Khan Academy to schools all over the country and the world. Retail, you saw in that video at the outset. You're going to hear a little bit more from Gap. We heard yesterday from Starbucks. This is fundamentally changing the way in which you can get one-to-one marketing in the way in which you approach a customer. Much of what happens in mobility have things that never existed in a PC, like a camera that allow you to do things very sophisticated on a phone or an iPad. Healthcare, we're going to hear from Stryker in terms of how they're transforming. This will fundamentally, I believe, change lives. It will save lives. And you're going to see us drive innovation there with application partners. Airlines, probably the best story is United Airlines. As you think about how all of this paper that enters the cockpit, 35 pounds worth of paper, I always wondered what was in those bags that the pilots added in. It's not that toiletries, okay, I assure you. It's paper for the landing instructions of a plane. United Airlines was one of the first to actually transform fundamentally the cockpit, and now it starts to move into the flight attendants and to the engineers who service the plane so that they're fundamentally able to handle things differently. Banking. Many of these applications are one. If you go to the Apple website that actually talks about the best business stories, the bulk of those business stories are powered by AirWatch, and we're very proud of that. To that extent, we've actually taken this a step further. We looked at the top players in the application world who were driving the mobile cloud economy. Okay? These are brands that you all know fairly well. And we also talked to Apple about who they considered leaders in the application economy. And we went to each of them, 6 of them initially at Mobile World Congress, and now we have 15 more, so a total of 21. And these are ones that we're actually going to cull out. We're going to curate the best type of applications and automatically configure them with AirWatch. So this is just the initial list of 21. These are all best-of-breed partners. We had several of them at our show. We're going to show a segment of them later on today. And these brands, whether it's Box or a DocuSign or a Dropbox or the IBM analytical applications or Everbridge, any of them here, you're going to see us continue to curate a long list of very good applications. Number 3, we think the whole way in which you actually handle your personal and work life need to continually be thought through. And one aspect of it is your billing systems. And we've been able to work with AT&T and make this split bill a reality. Where when you look at your consumer life and your work life, you now have your ability to be able to split that bill very efficiently. Now, number 4 and number 5 are the product aspects of things, and this requires just a little bit of explanation, because many of you may not know, if you're technical, you know what identity management is. Let me motivate for you with a very simple example or analogy. Ever seen these janitors with like 40 or 50 keys, and you wonder, listen, I wish that their life was just one simple key. Often, this is what the world of IT is. You've got usernames and passwords, plethora of them. So what do? You start to write down usernames on a file, and you hope that file is encrypted so no one gets to your laptop. Or maybe your spouse actually writes it down on a piece of paper at home for some of your consumer life, and you hope that paper never gets lost. That's the world we live in. Imagine if you could have a single key, which in fact is you or your phone, authenticated by things like your fingerprint, it could be multi-factor, and then becomes your pathway into the world of applications. Your cloud applications, your on-premise applications, your hybrid apps. That's the user-centric world of mobile and identity coming together. This didn't exist before because much of the identity management systems were on-premise, legacy-based. We've been able to bring the power and the strength of AirWatch and mobile security alongside a user-centric identity, all in the cloud, now running on vCloud Air. So we're announcing for the first time VMware Identity Manager. You might ask, where did this come from? Did you acquire something? Did you build this? 5 years ago, VMware acquired a hot asset in the space, TriCipher, and hired some really, really smart people in the identity management space, some of whom here in the room. We're doubling down on that investment. We've taken that, now put that in the cloud infrastructure, and we think that identity as a service is an important market that needs to be combined with mobility. Now, that's an important security area, but there's one more area of security that's very, very important as you tie the device all the way to the data center. There are two assets that I think, maybe I'm a little biased, are the heat-seeking missiles within VMware today, NSX and AirWatch. And as you think about how these are the two biggest acquisitions we've also done, how do we find ways by which we can actually combine them together? Here's a breakthrough that we've come through in the last 6-12 months that's available. Imagine in the world of the desktop or the PC, you had this thing called VPN. It was thick, it was cumbersome. You had to bring out, your card and infrastructure to be able to authenticate. Now we found a way by which you can actually do per-app VPN, which was pioneered by Apple in iOS 7, also adopted by the other mobile operating systems. Connect that to the policy management that AirWatch has that's extremely rich for things like per-app VPN. We're one of the first to adopt that. But then combine that same policy engine to the policy engine of NSX, and now you get magic. What happens is you're able to restrict an application to talk to a specific part of the data center and a particular database and an app. To make that clear, let me highlight this in a very, very simple video that we have to show on NSX and AirWatch, if we could play the video. So as you see this here, you see a balanced scorecard. A balanced scorecard has typically 4 or 5 different quadrants, and now you can manage that particular app on your iPad, potentially. Here's the per-app VPN screen from AirWatch that tells you which particular part you're able to do. I'm now going to take that same app, and I'm going to restrict in the policy settings of NSX what part of the data center they can talk to. Because that app now is going to go to a particular segment of the users, and we're going to turn off a particular set of data that they're not able to see. So now maybe it's a particular part of the company. You can see that they've got those parts, not able to access that. Now let's say we're going to roll back that app to Pat Gelsinger. He's the CEO. He gets access to all of this through a simple change in software settings. It's just like 2 simple switches. You get the ability to have all of that data now visible. This today, my friends, is extremely cumbersome in modern infrastructure. You've got to go write script files. You've got to go meddle with your networking infrastructure. You've got to worry about how that combines into mobility. We've made this Sesame Street simple by combining the magic of NSX and AirWatch, and we think this is going to be groundbreaking. So as we bring this together, let me complete the portfolio for you as you see this here. We talked about the Workspace Suite having these 3 core pillars: Horizon Desktop, AirWatch Mobile, Content Collaboration. We're now having an identity management solution that falls over this. And by the way, the identity management solution could integrate with your existing infrastructure. It could be Active Directory. You could have the RSA VIA components. All of those, we integrate very nicely with them so that you can sit on top of that in a cloud infrastructure. But now as we integrate among the infrastructure you have, among the components that you have here, we think the Workspace Suite gets richer and certainly best of breed. So just to summarize, here are the 5 elements, some strong commitments to the Apple operating system and to Apple. Application partners, we've got 21 now. I expect this to be 50 before long, maybe 100. And we're going to continue to cull out the best partners there. We're going to be doing things with telcos. Certainly what we did with AT&T will apply to what we'll do with many other telcos in the world. And 2 new innovations in security: identity management and the integration of NSX and AirWatch. So with that, it gives me great pleasure to now bring up Noah Wassemer, who is our CTO and Head of Product Management. Welcome, Noah, on stage.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining. So Noah, let's talk a little bit about how these solutions get shown a little bit and dive into a little more detail.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, everybody, for having me here today. One of the things that I want to go back to what you said, Sanjay, this idea of consumer simple, enterprise secure is such a powerful concept. And I'm sure we all experience this in our personal lives. Just thinking about simple apps that we use every day, like Box, right? That you go in and you have to enter your username and password. We all know that that's incredibly complex. And now there's increasing pressure to make your password a little bit more strict, right? To save all these different passwords for different apps. And it's just an ongoing challenge that is just becoming incredibly difficult. So you can see here, you just run through these same problems of invalid user login. And so the next thing you do is have to go reset. It's just a well-known problem. And what we're excited about is that we're figuring that out today, making it available. But it gets worse, actually, when you think about the enterprise, because we have these additional problems that different users in different geographies or different business units often have to enter in different configurations. You mentioned the forms that are now solved from a consumer perspective. Well, have we been able to bring that to the enterprise space? You know, we get prompted for these prompts about host name and port numbers. You know, this results in just help desk calls. It results in complexity that really prevents users from using the apps that they care about the most. And this is what we fundamentally have to change. And Sanjay, I'm pleased to announce that VMware Identity Manager, available today, is solving this exact problem with both SaaS, with both our web applications as well as our native mobile applications. And so let me just give you an example of how simple this could be. DocuSign, right? You've probably used it in your personal life for signing documents. Just simply tap on that application and it launches you directly in. No configuration, no sign-on, just into that application. This is in fact better than your consumer lives, right? This is a powerful technology that we think is going to help enterprises embrace that 1.5 million apps on the app stores that really bring the best of these applications to business. But let's even look at solutions like MicroStrategy, right? Where you get, what we hear from executives is that business analytics is one of the most powerful pieces of information that we can get in the hands of workers every day. And so you look at this, and this exact example of providing deep, rich pharmaceutical data, information about customers, and being able to navigate that content in a really fluid, native way. Again, an incredibly powerful story.
So this looks beautiful. No, I love these dashboards, but what if there's a security level that I don't want everyone to actually be able to see the data?
It's a great point that this is something that we've been engineering for just for a long period of time, and today what we're introducing is VMware Identity Manager with access control. And this is, again, an absolute breakthrough. What we're finding is that these apps, right, this app that may have sensitive customer data, may have patient records, we want to make sure that they're landing on the right devices. So not only is single sign-on incredibly important, but can we do some level of attestation to say that it's only landing on the devices that we know and trust? And this is the power of bringing together AirWatch with VMware Identity Manager, an absolute breakthrough in the market. And again, it's so exciting for us to be able to deliver this. But let's take it one step further. And when we think about, sometimes the most difficult technologies are actually transparent, right? And oftentimes this is a difficult demo because we've taken something that's very hard and made it invisible. And I just wanted to call out here in the Box application, again, a beautiful application. What they've done is been able to leverage these automatic configurations. Again, leveraging something that's from iOS app config, also available on Android in a different form. What we've been able to do is work across an industry standard, leveraging what Apple and Google have put out there to say, now you can pull in that critical data automatically. So end users don't even have to enter it. It simply is auto-populated in the field. One tap, they get access to that data. And we can set this up for different organizations in different groups. Again, incredibly powerful story. And we're also great to say that this is EMM neutral. We think this is great for our customers and great for the industry, great for the ISVs in a way that we can get these applications configured so that end users love it and business have it.
So Noah, that was great. You showed Box, you showed DocuSign, but is that all you have, or is there more that we can actually do this app config with?
This is just such a powerful story. So let me give you another example of using this with Salesforce, right? Different individuals, as you mentioned, may need different levels of access. Salesforce using now ACE and Identity brought together allows us to get in and tap through the rich applications so that sales professionals can now have access to the information that they need at their fingertips, right, at any given point in time. You've also probably had, different service professionals, whether that's talking about fixing your cable or going into retail, and working with you. Together with ServiceMax, again, an integration with ACE and VMware Identity Manager that allows us to provision this app and give field workers the best experience, right? This native, intuitive experience all on a single device. And last but not least, of course, Blue Jeans. What we're finding is that there's opportunity for us to bring together many people on these devices because you've mentioned before, that you have this great camera, you have this great ongoing connectivity, and now we can bring together your entire team. So, thank you to Rory and team for humoring us with this demo. But again, you can just see this great, rich experience that now we're empowering our people to have the applications that they know and love in their consumer lives now with enterprise security. And so again, it is such an honor to announce, VMware Identity Manager coming together also with ACE, all available today.
It's awesome, Noah. I think this is great innovation. So when I think about my phone and getting sort of a one-touch, single sign-on approach, how complicated is it for these ISV partners to integrate into our app configuration ACE standard?
It's been exciting to find that what they're saying is that they can take a single developer, and in some cases less than a day, that they can do this integration. And again, we're so thrilled that we have this available in the market, and so we look forward to working with customers and partners to bring this just to a great snowball effect in terms of momentum and a great opportunity. So thank you very much, Sanjay.
Let's give it up for Noah. Thank you very much, Noah. So I expect, as you think about your iPhone, you will have curated for you the best applications. If you're an ISV listening in the audience, we want to work with you. If you're in the ecosystem of iOS or in others, and if not, we're going to find you because we want to have the best apps that are on this. We've picked 20. There's going to be many more. And as we do this, this is going to be fundamental. It's also great, very special to see Noah. Noah is one among the first people who actually begun to talk about this 5 years ago when we integrated Tri-Cipher. And he's been a leader at VMware, went on to be head of product management at Mobile Iron, and then went to Apple. So we got him indoctrinated with iOS and much of that stuff, and now he's come back to drive a lot of what we're doing in mobility. So with that, let's move to the next part of our agenda, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce the world's best CMO, Robin Matlock.
Thank you, Sanjay. Appreciate it. Well, I have the honor of getting to talk to two fabulous customers. So if you will join me in welcoming my first guest is a director in charge of mobile solutions for Stryker. And he's been with Stryker both as an employee and a consultant for over 29 years. And back in 2012, was asked to lead their mobile application development work. So please join me in welcoming Paul Donahue to the stage. Thank you, Paul. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Rob.
Hi. Our second guest has joined us more locally from The Gap. He's the Senior Director of Omnichannel Architecture and is responsible for innovation and customer experience across all of the 6 Gap brands. So please help me in welcoming Roger Kibbe. Thank you, Roger. Good morning. Thank you. I'll let you guys go ahead and get comfortable there. So first of all, thank you, of course, for joining us. It's just such an honor to have you both here. And Pat talked a little bit about both of your companies and the fact that you guys are really leading an industry here. You're one of the 17% that are using mobility to transform businesses. Can we just take a moment, maybe just to help the audience set the stage? Talk to us a little bit about the recent mobile initiatives that are underway in your organizations, if we can. Do you want to go ahead and start, Roger?
Sure. You know, I think mobility has really changed the customer expectation. Customers now, we have a device in our pockets that provides instant gratification and instant information. And so to meet that customer expectation and provide great customer experience, we outfit our associates with mobile devices, and it really changed the customer experience. So in the old days, you'd walk into a store, couldn't find your size. The associate would have to run in the back in the stock room to find that size. Now, they whip out their mobile device, scan that barcode, get a lot of rich information about that product, which can help that customer conversation, but also check, is that item in size in that store? If it is, great, the associate can go get that product and satisfy that customer right there and there. If it's not, is it available in a local store? If it is, we can reserve that for that customer and then go pick that up in a local store, or we can simply place that order for them online and then satisfy the customer that way. So I think it's really changed the customer experience in many ways. I think the second way that it's really changed the customer experience is getting our associates out of the back room, from behind the cash wrap, getting the manager out of the back office and onto the floor. We know that customers who talk to an associate have a much better chance of buying, and that really is a richer customer experience. And mobility is a way of getting your associates out there and interacting with their customers in a rich and powerful way.
I really like that. The fact that you're bringing the customer experience to the customer, wherever they are in the store, all of a sudden now the engagement comes to them versus they have to go to this stationary thing called a cash register where an associate sits. So that's transformative. That's great. Paul, how about you? Can you set the stage for us?
Sure. So our mobile journey at Stryker goes back to early 2010. The iPad had just been announced. The president of one of our divisions created a skunkworks project. It was not IT people, it was business driven. And he wanted the team to do something that really engaged our customers more to Stryker, brought them closer to us. He didn't say go build iPad applications. We sat down, we used to call it the cave. It was a room with no windows. I actually spent 2.5 years there. They finally let me out.
Glamour of corporate life, huh?
And we came up with a number of iPad apps that we rolled out to our orthopedic sales force, our largest division, in early 2011. One of the challenges was how do you take 4 iPad apps and put them on a couple thousand iPads? And that's where AirWatch by VMware came in, that we used that to deploy the apps and manage it. Back then it was very simplistic, content management, get in front of a surgeon. Typically with a surgeon in the orthopedic spaces, you may have 10 or 20 seconds at a scrub sink to get their attention. If they had interest, the rep would go, let me run back to my car and get a brochure. Come back, they're gone. Let me open my laptop. Yeah, the surgeon's like, I'm busy, I got to get into the surgery.
You're not going to interrupt surgery to do your pitch, right? Okay.
So with the iPad, we put all the information on in an app that could get the surgeon's interest, get the key points across, whatever. Some surgeons are driven by clinical results, some are driven by instrumentation. So this way, whatever the surgeon was interested in, the rep had right at their fingertips. So it changed the way we interact with the surgeon. That was the early days. Fast forward to today, now we're doing integrated line of business systems with the iPad, where in the old days, a rep would come in, make a pitch. Now at the surgeons, got invited to the office, would sit down, would understand what they want, would go back to their dining room table that night, sit there on their laptop, type out a proposal, email it to them, lost that sense of immediacy, lost the opportunity to close the sale. Now right in the iPad app, they do a configuration right with the hospital customer, the surgeon. They hit a button, it sends the PDF, it can be approved and signed, gives them the opportunity to close the deal right then and there. We've had reps come back and tell us that our mobile apps have helped them close multi-million-dollar deals.
You know what I love about both of your stories is, there's of course lots of technology involved, but the way you're articulating is really about transforming this experience between your company and your customers, which, I think that's some of the greatest potential that mobility is bringing, wouldn't you say? The transformative nature of how it's changing the processes, it's changing how people do their jobs. That's very validating. Let's talk about, VMware or AirWatch's role relative to this journey that you've been on. Can you help us understand our connection to this?
Sure. In a retail environment, you need your devices to be highly managed, very locked down, and very secure. And simply put, we needed a best-in-class breed tool to do that, and VMware AirWatch is what we used. The other thing is we need to manage those applications and deploy those. And once again, best-of-breed tool was AirWatch to manage and deploy those applications. So it's a critical tool. We couldn't have done this without AirWatch.
Thank you. I appreciate the business. And Paul?
So, as Roger mentioned, in addition to being able to secure the devices and deploy the apps, we're in a somewhat unique business that we're selling regulated products across the globe. And a product that you can sell in one market, maybe not in another market, claims you can make in one market, but not in another market. VMware by AirWatch allows us, AirWatch by VMware, allows us to provision the apps in the right market with the right content to the right user and manage that. And if there ever is an issue, we can pull those apps back, which is something you can't do with public App Store apps.
Yeah, security, I was going to go down that path, actually. I'm kind of guessing that as you started this journey, how big was security of a concern for you? And if you look about maybe where your perspective on security was then versus now, can you tell us what, you've learned to deal with relative to security challenges?
So I think security, and I'd add compliance in there, is kind of at the top of every retailer's priority list. And I think mobility adds to the kind of security burden in a sense of now you have a mobile device that needs to be locked down very tightly, highest security protocols, and so we needed a tool to enable that, to lock down those devices, lock down those applications, and once again, AirWatch was our solution for that.
Got it. So those mobile devices, in a sense, were kind of increasing your available surface area, in a sense.
Very much so.
Your exposure. Paul, what's your perspective on security?
Similarly, in the perspective of security, it's one of our CIO's top priorities, particularly what goes on in the press today and companies being compromised. So we want to make sure that everything is done securely, and at the same time, we don't want to impact the end user's experience. We want to make sure they have a great experience, that it's easy to use, and that they can do their jobs. And AirWatch by VMware allows us to do that, get the level of management we need without making it obtrusive on our users.
Was that a tough sell for you? Was security an objection that maybe your leadership had? Or tell me the perspective of, maybe the executives and what they expected or were nervous about.
So security is certainly not a hard sell. I think, there's concerns about mobility and the implications of a device that travels around, right? And so, making sure that in these new mobile devices that we could lock them down, if they're lost, they're highly secure and there's not a problem there. So I think that was security paramount importance. How do we make these mobile devices as secure or more secure than anything else? And that would help your executives get kind of comfortable that, exactly, hey, it's okay to start going with this mobile initiative as long as we can kind of guarantee and protect the reputation at that level. Fair enough. What about, now you guys have been into this journey for a couple years now. If you look back, what lessons have you learned through the process might help people that are earlier in the journey? Sure. I think one of the first ones is a mobile application is not a desktop application writ small. It is... it's not a desktop light? Desktop light. Your design and your development needs to be very much mobile first, and build an application that it works great and is designed for that mobile device. I think the second, I'm forgetting, it was customer-centric or customer-centric view of, and I forget the terminology that was used earlier, but make your application work in a way that is familiar to your employees, so that the same applications they use on their personal applications and your application work in the same way. Drive down the training costs, drive down the change management costs, and it's a big win. And third, mobile applications drive an enormous amount of excitement. We exposed at beta, at even alpha level, some of our applications to some of the users and got some really positive feedback on one, improvements, but two, just generated a lot of excitement around what was going to happen. And that's always a positive, to generate a lot of early excitement and energy.
Kind of pave the way as
pave the way and get energy and excitement, and when's it going to happen, right? I can't wait to get my hands on it.
Right. Okay, I love this kind of thinking about that mobile first as opposed to bolting on mobile after the fact. It sounds like that might defeat the purpose if you build it the old enterprise app way and all of a sudden now try to consume it in a mobile environment. That's going to probably not be the right experience. So, Paul, what would your lessons learn?
So I think, it's important you start out with a good vision. We got in early on and everybody wanted an app for everything. And I think one of IT's key roles is to be the internal consulting partner to the business and explain why some things work well in mobile as a dedicated app, why some things maybe need to be a responsive website design that can be used mobile first, to Roger's point, and why some things don't belong on mobile necessarily. It's not a good fit. And it's partnering with the business. IT has the technology skills, the business has the business drivers and the vision where they want to take the business. Together with both IT and the business, we can really deliver apps that are create a compelling user experience. That's the other thing I'm particularly passionate about. Your business users have consumer-grade applications, as Sanjay mentioned earlier. They're going to hold what you build up to the best apps that they can download from any public app store. If you don't deliver them something that's easy to use, has that compelling user experience, they will not use it.
Yeah.
And you don't get a second chance. You can't fix it in version 2. You got to nail it out of the door.
I mean, to that point, how has it changed your relationship with the business by really delivering these kind of best-in-class mobile applications? I mean, Paul, maybe you could speak to that.
I always joke around, hi, I'm from IT and I'm here to help, and the door gets slammed. It's
like
it's
a good
really,
sales guy, huh?
We built 160 apps at Stryker, and the reason we did that is we actually had to win the business over to convince them that we really could be mobile, we could be quick, we could deliver on time, and we could deliver compelling apps that met their business needs. We've now shifted that dialogue to they come to us, they want to engage us. Now we're building platform apps. Instead of every product manager having a content delivery app, we build one platform app that the user interface changes to that particular product's brand. It has the content for that particular product. The business owns the content. They don't have to come back to IT to update, adding pieces or changing. They own the content, we own the delivery vehicle, and together we deliver a great experience.
That sounds like it was actually really a positive impact. How about you? Do you see a lot of differences, Rob?
Yeah, I mentioned releasing and letting our employees see those early versions of the apps, and that generated a lot of excitement. I laughed at your statement because we have a joke about, I'm walking into a store, I'm here from corporate, and I'm here to help, and you can see the eyes roll, right, in our stores. But, it really now, if it's about a mobile app, the eyes don't roll, they kind of open up with excitement about what am I going to see? I'm excited, I really like what I've seen, show me more.
Yeah,
so it's really changed the conversation.
That's a great example. Well, talk to us, and I know you obviously can't reveal stuff that is, private and proprietary, but can you give us a sense of where you think this all is headed? Maybe in a general sense, specific to your business. What is it, are we just at the beginning of this, or are we really already crested?
So I think we're definitely at the beginning. I think we just kind of scratched the surface of what we can do with mobility and how we can change retail and provide, both for consumer mobile devices and associate mobile devices, and just change the shopping experience and make it very amazing and very modern. I'm very, very bullish on what I see in the mobile technology and the wearable technology world, and I think there's going to be some really interesting technologies coming out. And the challenge is, how do I use that technology to build a great customer experience? As a retailer, we need to envision the future and then execute on that vision. And very much I see mobility as a key tool set to kind of on that execution of that vision. I
love how that places IT at such a strategic place in the business. So that's very exciting. How about you, Paul? What do you see?
So I agree, very similar to Roger's vision. We're in the Model A stages. We're going to blow the doors off mobile over the next couple of years. You look at healthcare in the United States, we spend more per patient than any other country in the world, yet we don't have, probably I think we're somewhere 15, 18 in terms of level of care that we give. There's huge opportunities there. I mean, Stryker is very concerned about patients and improving their healthcare, and we see mobile as being a key driving factor in helping us get there.
Gentlemen, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. I really want to appreciate the time that you spent with us and look forward to a long journey with you. Thank you,
Robin.
Paul. And with that, I'm going to turn the helm back over to Sanjay, who has some more in store for you.
Let's give it up for Robin.
All right.
Thank you very much, Robin. So as you can see, it's always fantastic when we can co-innovate with customers, but not just any customer. These are some of the greatest brands in the world that are innovating from healthcare to retail to a variety of different industries. Now, we had a very intimate event last night with some of our friends and family among the Influencers Summit, and we invited a few of our partners. And ecosystems play a very important role in VMware's success. Not just in the traditional data center, where we've worked with a number of hardware partners over the 15 years that we've been successful, but now in the device world. So a little later this afternoon, we're going to be doing a very intimate event with Apple and 50 to 100 of our best CIOs and VPs of IT. Pat and I were in Singapore a few weeks ago, and we did a special event with Samsung. We met with J.K. Shin. So we work with all of the vendors of the ecosystem. The device operating system people are very important. But the application partners, as I talked about earlier, are very important. We didn't have time in today's 1-hour agenda to get all of them here. So I'm going to play a montage of 4 of the folks who spoke last night. We were honored to have Dan Levin from Box, COO, Keith Kroc, CEO of DocuSign, a hot company that's growing in the Silicon Valley, and then 2 brands you've all heard of. The company that's probably pioneered the most in the cloud, Salesforce, Todd Nielsen, who is EVP of all platform there, and Sundar Annamalai, who is the head of the advanced solutions at AT&T. So let's play a short clip of what we saw last night in the panel from these ecosystem partners.
It's just astonishing how competitiveness is now based on the use of technology in a way that it never has been in the past. And mobility is at the foundation of that.
We've emerged as this category leader in digital transaction management. It basically means we empower anyone to transact anything, anytime, anywhere, on any device securely. And the mobile business has just absolutely driven it. We show like a time-lapse photography over the last 10 years of DocuSign's existence. And we show like these yellow and green sign sets, and then we show the blue dot for mobile, and it just goes whoo.
Instead of having people to worry about infrastructure and some of how they connect to different EMMs and do all the technical stuff, it's Sesame Street simple.
And then in a lot of cases, these businesses have deployed capital-intensive equipment, right? Or they're on the cusp of making these big capital-intensive equipment purchases. And so when you layer on mobility on top of that, it's how do you better get a return on your capital investment? You hit on the point earlier, right? And so when we look at the space, it's about looking at those 3 key tenets in parallel to make sure that the business is properly evaluating what their mobile transformation journey looks like.
Talk about the nature of the VMware AirWatch relationship with Box. How have things progressed as then that first room when we sat together almost a year ago to where it's progressed today? And then I'll turn it over to each of these folks there in terms of what that partnership looks like today and how we're taking that forward to customers.
We need to be part of an ecosystem, part of a set of capabilities that are deployed enterprise-wide, and those capabilities have to be managed and secured and deployed by some tool that's sort of above our head, bigger and better than we are. And it was really the joint customers that we share that drove the energy for us to work together effectively, and it's been a fabulous relationship.
It's a heterogeneous world, and there are so many things out there that if you could spend all your time focusing on infrastructure and trying to wire and connect to the different things, and every customer says, just help. We want to focus on a standard, and so this is a great place where, as an industry, we can come together and say, let's make it easy for everyone.
I think immediacy is the word that really comes to mind for me. That is the game-changing word. Whether it's a repair person in an oil field in the Bakken who now has access to the information about the broken piece of equipment thanks to the AT&T network in the middle of nowhere without having to go back, whether it's the Bechtel engineer on the 70th floor who doesn't have to go down 70 floors to the trailer to find the drawing. It's immediacy. It's these devices are with us and they're capable, GPS, cameras, network connectivity, applications, secure. It's immediacy and it's game-changing. The companies that adopt this stuff are just killing the companies who don't. The increase in competitiveness is not measured in, single-digit percentages. It's minutes instead of days.
So let's give it up for our partners. It was great to have them on stage at this special intimate event that we're doing later today with Apple. We're going to actually have many of them live with us and some of our customers here. So we're just delighted. And I mention again, for any of you among the tens of thousands that are watching live or going to watch this, if you are an ISV and want to work with us and have got a killer mobile cloud application, we're coming to get you. Or you can come join us in this wonderful revolution that we're driving. We need the application ecosystem embracing a much easier, what I described as Sesame Street simple ways by which applications could be revolutionize what's happened in the consumer world all the way in the mobile world. So thank you very much, folks, for being here and for the friendly audience of VMware friends and colleagues. And we owe a tremendous amount to this team. I started off with the Warriors, and whether you're a Warriors fan or a Cleveland fan, let me tell you the one thing about these teams is they're incredible teams. They work as a team. I feel very fortunate and honored to work with the best talent, I believe, in the industry here at VMware, but then to extend that team to our ecosystem, to our customers, and that connective tissue makes us collectively able to win in the market. So just as we close, we're going to play a customer montage, and we'll close out the webcast. Thank you very much.
Using mobile apps on mobile devices enables us to be faster and also to react quicker. The ambition is to make any application available on any device to any employee who needs that application.
Today we're using the MDM to deploy out an application called StoreForce, which allows us to manage our retail workforce much better. And that system there's no way we could have deployed that on iPads without AirWatch behind it, securing it, managing it, and making our deployments a lot more consistent.
Really, in the long term, we want to make sure that all students have access to devices whenever they need them, and different schools will go down different routes. Some will go down the one-to-one iPad route, some will go for a bring-your-own-device route, and we need to make sure that we provide the technology to enable all of those different things to happen. But in the end, it is that access to devices, that access to web browsers, that access to technology that's really the key, and the more that we can enable that, the more our students will be able to really transform their learning.
Mobility is revolutionizing healthcare. If you think about a company like VITAS, 80% of our workers are mobile. They're not sitting in an office or at a hospital bedside. They're caring for patients in a variety of settings. So we have to be able to deploy our resources whenever they're needed, wherever they're needed at a moment's notice. We don't need any more tools, and we don't need any more vendors. What we need are partners. And VITAS is interested in working with companies that are as passionate as we are about innovating healthcare. And we found that partner in AirWatch.
I think it's important for us to be partnered with a company that is on the forefront of these technologies so that we can take advantage of the things that VMware is developing and turn them around and improve the way that we deliver IT and to give our company a competitive advantage.